He'll never be on our show, so we might as well at this point just pile it on.
Yeah. And even if, when we hit it big and, everyone's begging to be on our show, we're going to instruct our PR guy to absolutely deny him and do it fucking as rudely as possible, and throw the word douchebag in there.
I'm Justin Lesko, a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu brown belt and a former pro MMA fighter.
And I'm Mike Callahan, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu brown belt and a law enforcement officer.
So apparently we now live in a world where all you need to do to fight the greatest boxer of all time is be really good at YouTube.
And it's also been a busy couple days in the jiu-jitsu world and the MMA world. We got Gary Tonin fighting. Khabib is apparently trying to buy an MMA league or promotion.
And he's trying to get MMA into the Olympics. So big endeavors for Khabib.
In other news, we're going to talk about the surprising number of cuts that the UFC has hinted at making. They've already released one big name, so we're going to dive into that.
We've also got a drug cheat coming back and wanting a title shot, and a former champion coming back after a long injury layoff again, and Andre Galvao making a return to MMA for the first time in 9 years.
I don't even know where to begin.
Well, no matter how many things we have to discuss, one thing we can always find time for is telling you how much we love Crown Rash Guards.
Yeah, so if you're shopping for the holidays, you can't really go wrong with Crown Rash Guards. Not only are they offering 3-day shipping, free shipping, they're also offering free returns.
Yeah, so if you were going to buy your buddy a new Rashi for Christmas, but COVID-19 had him put on the COVID 20 pounds, and he needs to exchange his large for an XL, you can do that for free.
Who are we talking about here?
Nobody you know, but go over to crownrashguards.com to check out their amazing selection and enjoy free shipping.
And don't forget to tell them at the checkout that we sent you.
And now, let's get right into it. Welcome to That Jiu Jitsu Podcast. So I'm just sitting there, minding my own business, watching my beloved Philadelphia Eagles get smoked by Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers.
4-1 out for
And
the
then
Eagles.
I get a notification on my phone that Logan Paul is going to be boxing Floyd Mayweather. And I just don't know why. Well, I know why, because they want to make a lot of money, but I just don't know why.
I hate the Paul brothers. I think I hate Jake Paul more than it. I can't fucking stand him.
I don't know anything about them. I know we do a show that's on YouTube, but I don't know YouTuber culture. I don't know what their deal is. I know that, was it him or his brother found a dead body one time and there was a big controversy? And
yeah, it was in Asia, I think. And there was this like park where people go to kill themselves. They hang themselves. It's like notorious there. He went in there and there was actually a dead body hanging from the tree. And he like got fucking booted off of YouTube. He lost all of his fucking money that was generated from YouTube. He took a hit.
so this is like on the heels of the Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. fight. His brother fought Nate Robinson, who played in the NBA for however many years, and demolished him, flatlined him almost, and put him out face first on the canvas. And now the other Paul brother, they announced is going to fight Floyd. And we talked a couple episodes ago about Floyd doing like the exhibition match versus the kickboxer. And he has said he's going to do more exhibition matches. Why are you going to fight this YouTube guy? I don't get this like new thing about influencers fighting each other and now crossing over into fighting actual fighters and other athletes. I just don't get it.
So if you look at these videos, like if you look at Jake Paul's videos, or you look at Logan Paul's videos and you see him like hitting mitts or doing any type of bag workouts, like to the casual observer, you're like, oh, like these guys know what they're doing. But to anybody who knows anything, you just realize it is that these guys are somehow fucking millionaires from YouTube and Instagram, and they're fucking idiots, and they spend a majority of their time working out and boxing. So, their skills are to the, again, to the casual observer, they look like they're good. And then you got people who are like, oh, he knocked out Nate Robinson. Nate Robinson is a 36-year-old retired NBA player who had no business being in a
No, and
fucking
like I
boxing.
know these two Paul brothers like have boxing experience. Like this Logan one who's gonna fight Floyd is like 0-1 as a pro boxer. I know he fought some other YouTuber.
Yeah, he lost to a video KSI or
Sure.
whatever the fuck his name is from England. Yeah, he lost. What the fuck is going to happen against Floyd Mayweather? Because did you see the last time Floyd Mayweather fought in an exhibition match? It was against that kickboxer in fucking Japan,
Yeah.
and he almost
Also,
killed the guy.
I in doing research for this and looking up that fight that Logan Paul had, he weighed like 200 pounds for that fight. And Floyd Mayweather weighed like 149, I think, when he fought Connor. What like this is a circus fight. This
Yeah.
is what these fights are. They're called circus fights. And I know it'll make a ton of money. I know that a bunch of people will tune in, but like
It's just it's absurd, and it's like I was pleasantly surprised with the Tyson and Roy Jones fight, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But Jake Paul recently called out Ryan Garcia. Are you familiar with who Ryan
yeah.
Garcia
Yeah.
is, the boxer? Okay, and he was serious.
He also said that he was going to dedicate his life to fighting Conor McGregor.
And Dylan Dennis,
Well, Dylan Dennis
he probably beat Dylan Dennis because I don't know if anybody. It's been a while since I said this, and by a while I mean like at least an
last
episode.
episode.
Dylan Dennis is a fucking douchebag. So as much of a douchebag as these Paul brothers are, there's nothing that can compare to the level of douchebaggery that Dylan Dennis brings to the table.
And every time you say this, I throw the caption out there that he'll never be on our show. So we might as well at this point just pile it on.
Yeah, and even if when we hit it big and everyone's begging to be on our show, we're gonna instruct our PR guy to absolutely deny him and do it fucking as rudely as possible, and throw the word douchebag in there.
And tell us every time so we can mention that one more time Dylan Dennis asked to get on the show and we said no.
Yeah, sorry,
But
douchebag.
you were saying about, these YouTube people and like fitness influencers, like you see him hitting mitts and again, yeah, like the casual observer's like, oh, look, this guy's hitting mitts. There was just a video. There's a channel I follow on YouTube. It's called Shredded Sports Science. And like a big thing the guy does is he debunks a lot of like fitness myths or a lot of like bro science. And he posted a reaction to this dude, Chris Haria, who's like one of the biggest fitness influencers in the world. And it's the same thing. It's this guy posts a video where he's making it look like he's sparring with someone. The dude he's sparring against is missing him on purpose. He's throwing punches wide on purpose that even if this dude does no defense, he's not going to get hit with these punches. So people see this kind of content from the Paul brothers or Chris Haria or, insert influencer who has a gym buddy hold mitts for them.
Yep.
And people think that they have a chance. Like there are people who think that Logan Paul has a chance to beat Floyd Mayweather.
Oh
And
yeah, it's going to be fucking ugly, and I pray that Floyd doesn't reach some kind of deal with this fucking guy, and I pray that he goes in there and rips his fucking head off, and then I hope he beats the shit out of his brother too, because his brother's actually worse than he is.
at least with the Floyd Connor fight, it's two fighters, and that whole thing started because Connor actually said something nice about Floyd, and it gets turned into can these guys fight? And like at least they're both fighters. At least they're both professional athletes. When you start mixing in this like influencer versus influencer, like all right, that's been done before. Remember when it was like Screech from Saved by the Bell? Saved by the Bell fought somebody
Yeah,
in like celebrity
yeah. What
boxing.
was it? They would have the
Like
like
it's been done
celebrity.
before.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If you want to do influencer versus influencer, YouTuber versus YouTuber, fine, it is what it is. But you're parading out Floyd Mayweather, who's the best to ever do it.
Does it make you think that he's run out of money?
I mean, it's Floyd, so I know he's run out of money. But it's not a real athlete fighting a boxer, and I don't have really any interest in watching. Like, would you want to watch a amateur boxer from a local gym walk in and fight Floyd Mayweather? No, like for the sake of the sport of boxing, I don't want to watch it. It's not going to be good boxing. I don't get what. And I just don't get it. I maybe I'm not the target audience.
It's bad. It's bad. I mean, it's just again, these Paul brothers are just fucking clowns. Like his Logan Paul's bad, but not nearly as bad as his brother. His brother is a complete fucking douchebag. So,
well, you know what's going to happen is we're going to get comments on this video. People are going to comment to us and say, you guys are going to talk positively about the Tyson Jones fight. What's the difference? That's a circus fight too. And to a point, like, yeah, that you kind of are right. It's a circus fight, but at least it's two former champions and actual boxers at equal stages.
Yeah, I mean, it's right. It's apples and oranges. It's not even comparable. Anybody who writes that on our to a video to try to compare these two fights is a fucking idiot.
Did you like the fight? Were you an active watcher in the fight?
Yeah. I thought that Mike Tyson looked good. I thought that Roy Jones looked good in spots.
Yeah.
Roy Jones's cardio started failing him pretty quick, but like Tyson seemed to keep up a pace the entire fight. He still has that fucking head movement. It's creepy.
Yeah.
And Roy Jones looked quick in spots too. Like for Mike Tyson's 54, Roy Jones is 51. Like I thought that they both looked good.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been the old adage of like power is the last thing to go, and Mike Tyson punches with power, and your speed and athleticism is the first thing to go. And Roy Jones Jr.'s whole career was based around his speed and athleticism. So I thought that it was going to be more Tyson dominating, and Tyson landed his punches and landed in shots. But like you said, Roy Jones looked good, and it was what I expected it to be. Two 50-something-year-old dudes fighting. It wasn't Tyson fighting.
I was impressed.
It wasn't Tyson going out there and fighting Canelo, which is basically the same thing as the Logan Paul Floyd Mayweather fight. It's one guy in his prime and one guy.
I don't even think it's that bad. Yeah, I don't even think it's that bad. I don't think Mike Tyson fighting Canelo is as bad as Floyd Mayweather fighting.
Yeah, I'd want to watch that first.
Logan Paul.
Yeah. This company Triller that put this fight on, the Tyson Jones Jr. fight, they're going to do more like legends only fights. And it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. I'm kind of into it. It depends on what the matchups are and who's fighting, but I sort of like this shortened rounds, a shorter fight. You get like a senior league. Like I'm not opposed to it as long as two guys are going in there who aren't already super punchy, who aren't wearing a lot of damage, who aren't desperate for money and have no business being in there. And it is a fine line. I don't want to be the one to make the judgments of who should be allowed to fight and who shouldn't in the senior league. But as long as we stay on the right side of everyone still has their faculties going into the fight, I'm here for it.
Facilities.
Faculties. Facilities is like bathrooms.
Faculties are like teachers.
Look it up.
So I said faculties and you said facilities?
No, don't switch it now because I'm right.
I think I said faculties.
You did it. I'll play the tape back for you. I was right. Just admit it. But as long as we stay on the right side of everyone still has their faculties, It's good to win one. Let's move on from a real big circus. We talked about a medium-sized circus. In real fight news, Gary Tonin improved to 6-0 as an undefeated MMA fighter.
I didn't realize how long he had taken off in between his fights. It was like 18 months or something.
Yeah. Yep.
Something crazy long.
Yeah, I thought he looked good in the fight. It was the first time that he didn't finish his opponent like immediately with a submission. It's the first time he went the full distance, right? That's right. First time he went to the cards. I thought he looked in control the entire time. I thought the bell robbed him of a finish in the first and second round. He had so much control. He had back control. Like another minute, that fight was over.
I would love to see Gary Tonin in the UFC.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this.
I hope
we talked about this a few episodes ago. Where right now, where does he stand in the top 15 at 145 or 155 or wherever in the UFC? And remember, he's now 6-0 in MMA. Like anyone at 6-0, no matter who they are, I don't put them in the top 15 in the UFC unless it's somebody special standout like John Jones at 6-0. I would put in the top 15 in a division at the UFC. But yeah, I want to see Gary Tonin fight the best dudes. I want to see, can he do a Ryan Hall or a Damian Maia and be a pure specialist who dominates and has a lot of success against the best guys in the world. I think if you're a grappling fan and a UFC fan, you want to see Gary Tonin fight the best guys in the world. I was happy to see in this fight, the third round, there was some back and forth, there were some stand-up exchanges, and he hung right in there and was in for it and got hit a couple times, stayed right there and responded. I thought it was a good performance. We're probably gonna get some heat for this take, but Gary said that he thinks he could submit Khabib in a pure grappling match, not an MMA fight, a pure grappling match, and I agree.
My silence should also be noted. I mean, like, in what? Like, in no time limit, submission only, where there has to be a winner? Is that what we're going after here?
I mean, he didn't give any caveats or rule sets
Right.
when he
Like,
said
I
it.
mean, like, I think that Gary dominated Husamar Palhares in a grappling match. I don't think that Khabib would submit Gary. But at the same time, like, do I think in like a regular 10-minute grappling match that Gary Tonin's going to submit Khabib? No.
Okay, I do.
In a 10-minute grappling match. No.
I thought you were going to agree with. I thought this was going to be one of those you agree with me. One of those hot takes we have where we both agree, and everyone sends us messages that we're wrong.
Dude, if he gets on top of Khabib, or I'm sorry, if Khabib gets on top of him, it's a smothering style. Like JT Torres, perfect example. JT Torres has like almost a smothering, heavy top pressure game that fucking smothers people. And Gary has always had trouble dealing with that. Now, in like a no time limit submission only match, I could see Gary beating JT. And in a no time limit submission only match, I could see Gary submitting Khabib.
All right, well, you better call your boy Seth and get it set up because I would love to make a wager. And I'm very surprised. I thought you love Gary Tonin. I thought
no, I do. I love Gary Tonin, but styles make matchups, man.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Khabib, 2 bits of news on Khabib. The first is he bought Guerrilla Fighting Championship, Guerrilla FC, rumored to have paid $1 million for it. He rebranded it as Eagle Fighting Championship, Eagle FC, obviously because that was his nickname. And the fights are going to air on Fight Pass.
I don't know if they agreed to that yet. He wants it.
Okay,
yeah.
I saw that sourced in 2 different places that it was going to be on Fight Pass, but
he wants it there on Fight Pass. But I mean, like, this is just one of those things of like the UFC taking care of one of its top guys. You know what I mean? Like promoting fucking McGregor's whiskey or giving that fucking bum douchebag Artem like a spot on the Ultimate Fighter.
I like Artem. Artem never did anything wrong to you. Leave Artem alone.
Artem should be headlining a UFC card. Do you remember when Artem and his 500 record headlined a fucking UFC card
against Cub Swanson?
That was a fucking joke.
Artem didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't Artem's fault. What is Artem supposed to say? No, don't put me on the Ultimate Fighter. I don't want to be on the show, even though Connor got me on it.
No, but he, I don't know. He's just a lackey. So anyway, like, it's just UFC taking care of their guys. So I'm not surprised, and I'm happy. I mean, like, if he can legitimize that promotion and stream some talent to the UFC from there, like
we mentioned, he seems very serious about trying to get MMA to be an Olympic sport, which
it'll never happen, but okay.
It'll never happen. It should happen. You have boxing, you have judo, you have wrestling, you have taekwondo of all things. You have rhythmic dancing, you have rhythmic gymnastics with the ribbon and the ball.
I know what it is, but yeah, it's too grueling of a sport. Like, so what do you like? You're gonna say like, oh, boxing, yeah, but they're fucking look how short those rounds are. They're wearing headgear. You know what I mean? There's rules.
You'd have to do so. There's a couple
You
hurdles.
just
The rules would obviously have to be different. You can't do 3 5-minute rounds. You'd have to maybe run 3 3-minute rounds. You'd have to change the rule set. Like, you need to have. There is a number. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, so I don't want to say a number and be wrong, but I think it's like 20 plus countries for a sport to be included in the Olympics.
and they would have that, but it's there's so many hurdles to jump
You would have it,
through
but you would
it's
have no
or jump
depth.
over.
You'd have no depth
Yeah,
at those. Who is the country of France just legalized MMA? Are they going to send their best 5 MMA fighters? Like, it's not, it's
yeah.
in,
I just don't foresee it ever happening in our
in
lifetime.
theory, it's a great idea. I don't see it being executed. Sort of like communism. It's just not going to work.
They almost cut wrestling
Yeah, I
out of the
remember.
Olympics a couple years ago. Like, I mean, they're going in the opposite direction. Like wrestling was one of the original Olympic sports. Like they're going in the opposite direction. Like they don't want to. Like they don't
Well,
want to add
the
that.
one thing that they
You know.
have going for them is money. And the fact that MMA and the UFC, I mean, shit, even Bellator, PFL, all of these organizations have a lot of revenue coming in. And revenue is going to drive every decision. And more people are watching MMA than are watching swimming if it's a non Olympic year. There's more people watching MMA than are watching gymnastics in a non Olympic year. So the argument of if you bring in all these more fans to watch, I can see that argument having a little bit of weight behind it.
I don't think that there's anything that could be done to bring MMA to the Olympics in our lifetime. Hot take.
All right, let's make a lifetime bet. While we're talking Olympics, former Olympian Yoel Romero was unceremoniously released from his UFC contract.
Yeah.
And then Dana
Yeah.
comes out and says,
They said that they're.
then Dana
They
comes out
said,
and says that before the end of the year, we should expect to see 60 more fighters released from the UFC, which kind of poor
yeah,
timing right before the holidays,
it's
just firing a
understandable.
bunch of people, but whatever. Yeah.
It's a business model, man. Like, yeah, they have to. They don't have any live gates. They're not going to have any live gates for the foreseeable future. I'm actually
Yeah.
surprised it hasn't happened sooner. But in Romero's case, he's like 1-4 in his last 5 fights. Like they've all been.
He shouldn't have got the title shot coming off of 2 losses. I mean, you make the argument that the people he's lost to are all the champion or former champions or champion title challengers.
Oh yeah,
Because he lost to Whitaker twice, he lost to Paulo Costa, he lost to Izzy. I get it. He's like 43 years old, and Dana said that he's in his
yeah.
40s. He's 4 of the last 5, lost the last 3 in a row. I get it. The dude is still carved out of stone. The dude is still made of steel. Bellator and the PFL both said they have no interest in signing him, which
Right.
I think is stupid. I'm shocked, but
So when Scott Coker, who's a fucking douchebag, and it's painful to listen to him speak, but when he talks about stuff like that, about how they don't have any interest, like it's like, dude, you put on Shamrock versus Gracie 7. Remember, like
yeah.
he's just trying to make it seem like, oh, we don't like we're good. Like he said it with Anderson Silva. It's like trying to like promote his company to the
We
point
don't need
saying like
him.
that they're good without these guys. It's like you're not that good, buddy.
There was flashes in the Izzy fight of like excitement. It was not a great fight. It was not a very exciting fight, and a lot of that was Romero trying to force Izzy to lead the dance because Izzy likes to counterpunch. And there was that weird gif of him
Right.
just like turtle shelling up, like almost like a Philly shell, and just not moving at all and just kind of standing still and waiting for Izzy to come forward. But then later in the fight, there's this flash of like this wild scramble, and like he didn't fight the fight like it was the last time he was ever going to fight for a title, which he should have. But I still think he's got gas in the tank, and I'd still want to see him fight again.
Yeah,
And
I think he's good. I think he's really, really good. And he can fight it. He can fight at 85 or 205. You know.
I think like you said, I think he'll end up somewhere. I don't know where that'll be. I don't think he's done fighting unless he wants to be done fighting. But,
Yeah.
we're talking about 60 fighters who are going to be getting cut. And when you look at people who are getting cut, it's probably people who don't have $1 million in the bank who aren't Yoel Romero. Like, this is why the if you want to be a fighter for money, it's not the right job for you. Like, you have to
Yeah.
expect that if you're like guys fighting on the Contender Series, probably getting cut. Like, they're probably not keeping guys around like that. Like, how many fighters are there in each division that are outside the top 10? And if you're making business decisions and you're going to only keep the top 10 in each division, you can't say, unless you're ranked 10 or above, that for sure on January 1st you're still fighting in the UFC. Like, it's just, unfortunately, it is what it is when they say that they're going to cut 60 people and no one's like, oh, you shouldn't do that. It's just,
Yeah. It's shitty.
if any
It's
other
shitty.
company just was like, oh, we're just going to fire our main revenue generating people 3 weeks before Christmas, it'd be like a PR nightmare. But it's the UFC and their fighters, so no one cares. Like, it's shitty. It's
Yeah, it's
shitty.
shit. It's shit.
One fighter who is not going to get cut, but I would love to see him go away forever, is TJ Dillashaw, who is getting close to being done his 2-year suspension for taking EPO and still getting fucked up by Henry Cejudo.
Yeah.
But he wants an immediate title shot when he comes back and thinks he deserves it. Your thoughts?
He actually came out the other day and said that if he would have won that fight, he would have justified the use of the EPO in his head somehow. If he wouldn't have got, he's just fucking cringe. Him, like when him and Cody Garbrandt were talking shit to each other. I was thinking about this the other day. If you go back and listen to that fucking press conference where they talk shit to each other, it's painful. And then go back and listen to Dominic Cruz just fucking destroy both of them
Well, we're going to get to Dominic Cruz in a
verbally.
minute.
You know what I
But
mean?
yeah, he fucking made them
Yeah,
look
man.
awful.
That's my
Me too.
dude. But yeah, so TJ Dillashaw, he thinks he should get a title shot. There's no fucking way he should get a title shot. Who did they say that they should put him up against? And this would actually be a good fight. They were saying that they should match him up against Frankie Edgar in his
I'd like to
return
see
fight.
Frankie Edgar maul him a little bit.
Yeah,
TJ,
I'm all for that.
TJ, you don't get suspended for cheating and get an immediate title shot. You just don't. Like, you just don't.
And you didn't even cheat and win, you fucking nerd.
The biggest thing about that whole cheating thing was how he was on Rogan's podcast talking all about like science and algorithms of his weight cut, and his strength coach was this mathematician and da 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 da. And then like 1 week later, it comes out that he was cheating. Like, it's
Garbrandt
not
was
even.
Garbrandt was saying for a while that he was doping, but he's a fucking idiot. He's a complete idiot.
It's one thing to cheat. It's one thing to cheat. That's bad. Don't cheat. But then to go in the other direction of like, I'm so great and scientific and this is how I did it based on work ethic and smarts and da 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 da. You are fucking cheating. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
If you're going to be cheating and you don't want to get caught, don't be so braggy in the other direction. Just shut the fuck up, show up and fight. Don't try to overcompensate talking all this nonsense, because when you get caught, you look like an extra fucking douche. And
yeah, he's an idiot. I root for him to lose every time he fights, except for against Cody Garbrandt. Then I wish for a vicious double knockout.
I'd love to see it. But we talked about Dominic Cruz a little bit. I really like Dominic Cruz. Before we talk about the injuries and coming back and all that stuff,
Yeah.
I really like Dominic Cruz. I think he's a very good analyst. I like him on the desk. I think he's a very good fighter. I think that this style that Dillashaw had success with, he and Bang Ludwig just ripped it off of Dominic Cruz. And
100%.
I don't know. I was happy Dominic Cruz beat TJ Dillashaw when they fought. I don't know if that was the right decision on those judges' scorecards.
It was.
It was close.
It was. We should call TJ Dillashaw onto the show and then just fucking berate him and have him get off at the show, not get off.
Wait,
we don't want him to get off. We hope he never gets off again.
I don't know what kind of party this is, but Yeah, I like Dominic Cruz.
Yeah,
I like Dominic Cruz in the way he fights. I like the Dominic Cruz in his training mentality, much like I like GSP in the way he trains and his approach to the game. As someone who had a lot of surgeries for a catastrophic injury that I could not fully recover from, I
yeah.
can relate to Dominic Cruz. This is like the third time he's coming back from a major layoff from a major surgery. And he, in 2012, he tore his ACL and he had surgery. And then his body rejected the cadaver. So he had surgery again. He was supposed to fight in 2014, tore his groin before that fight. And that's when he vacated the title because he was still the champion at that point. He comes back after 3 years and knocks out Mizugaki, who at the time was like ranked in the top five. Like Mizugaki was a stud. Dominic Cruz comes back. Everyone expects him to lose after 3 years, and he puts on like this amazing performance. After the Mizugaki fight, he was supposed to fight for the title. He tore his other ACL, another long layoff, another surgery. He comes back in 2016, and that's the fight we just talked about where he beat Dillashaw. And again, everyone was expecting him to lose. Like, even though he just beat Mizugaki, you can say he won in a fluke and in a first round he clipped him or whatever. Fights Dillashaw, beats Dillashaw, gets injured again. That was his last fight. He hasn't won a fight since 2016. And then
Yeah.
he gets injured in 2016. They announce he's going to come back. He gets hurt again in 2017. They announce he's going to come back. He gets hurt again. He finally comes back and replaces Aldo against Cejudo.
No, he fought before that. He fought before that because he lost the title to Garbrandt.
You're right. Yeah, he finally came back after beating Dillashaw, lost the title to Garbrandt.
Then Garbrandt in the interim lost the title to Dillashaw, who then vacated the title. Then Cejudo won the title. And I think for his first title defense at 35, he picked Cruz. Cruz came back, looked really good, but just
Well, that was the famous
didn't hold up.
famous incident with Keith
So
Peterson where he said it was an early stoppage and he said Keith Peterson smelled like cigarettes and alcohol, and that was the whole big controversy. I was okay with the stoppage watching it live, but
yeah, I was too. I was too. And Dominic Cruz is one of my favorite fighters of all time. I like I said, if it wasn't for injuries, I really think we would be talking about him as the greatest
yeah,
bantamweight of all
yeah.
time, without a doubt, and maybe one of the greatest. As it stands right now, he's in the discussion for the greatest bantamweight of all time. You know, and if it wasn't for these injuries, we might be talking about him up on that Mount Rushmore that we've referred to a couple times here. It's a fucking tragedy. It's a fucking tragedy.
There was 2 and 3 times where he could have easily hung it up and just been done,
Yeah.
kept fighting, kept persevering. And again, like, I know what it's like when you have these fucking injuries where nothing's going right. You're having surgery after surgery after surgery and you can't get it fixed. Like, that's demoralizing when you
Yep.
just were in the peak of health. You're in better shape than 99% of the population of the planet Earth, and you can't even do basic functions and then build yourself back up and be a champion again. Like,
Yeah, at the highest level.
good on
It's
you, Dominic
impressive.
Cruz. Good on you, Dominic
Yeah.
Cruz. But he's coming back. The reason we're talking about him, maybe we should have said this in the beginning, but he's coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah, in March against Casey Kenny, who's sort of a prospect. I guess you would put him in the prospect category. He's 16-2. He's on a 3-fight win streak. This would obviously be the biggest name he's fought yet. It's a good fight for both guys, I think, but good to see Dominic Cruz coming back.
If Dominic Cruz comes back and wins this fight, he should get a title shot.
Dominic Cruz should get a title shot before TJ Dillashaw.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was going to say that before I said I was going to say that, but then I was like, that goes without saying, because number one, he beat him before. Number two, he's not a fucking douchebag, and number three, he's not a cheater.
Don't be a cheater. Be like Dominic Cruz. Be a Dominic. Don't be a TJ.
Yeah, yeah.
And if that's not a good idea for a t-shirt, I don't know if I've ever heard one.
Fucking copyright that shit.
Another person making a comeback, although this one is maybe less heralded, we'll say. Andre Galvo was talking the other day on Instagram about making a comeback to MMA, and hasn't fought MMA in 9 years.
Yeah,
Since 2011.
was that when Tyron Woodley put him in another fucking dimension?
I think that was his last fight, but I could be wrong. So don't be mad at us, internet. But I think that was his last fight. He was 5-2 in a 3-year stretch between 2008 and 2011, but hasn't fought since 2011. So
yeah, we're good. We don't need him.
I'll watch it. Tell me you're not going to watch it.
I'll watch it, but I would really like to see him sack up and fight Gordon Ryan in Abu Dhabi or in ADCC. I'd really, really like.
I would rather see that than him fight anyone in MMA.
I would. That's the. Like I don't know. Like so, Gordon versus Buchecha happened. I don't know if there's another fight I want to see. Gordon versus Keenan happened. Gordon versus Dylan Dennis happened. Gordon versus Cyborg happened. Like, I'd actually like to see him versus Cyborg again because Cyborg's almost 40 years old and he's been on a fucking He's been on an absolute tear lately. But yeah, Gordon versus Galbo. That's all I need right now. That's all my soul needs right now. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. Don't forget, we put the links to all of our social media accounts below, so feel free to check them out.
I'm also going to link below to our Patreon account. That's where we have bonus content. We have multiple technique breakdowns every month. We have our Q&A episode, a lot of bonus content there. So check that out. Patreon.com/thatjujitsupodcast. If you like this video, please make sure you give it a big thumbs up and make sure that you're subscribed so you can see when the newest content comes out. We try to put things out every couple of days. Say, don't buy the Logan Paul Floyd Mayweather fight.
Don't buy that fucking fight.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.
Don't buy that fucking fight.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Don't you fucking do it.
All right, bye.
Thanks, guys.